The second concept, the first concept is every API call is going to be filtered and minimum are school ID and academic year. Okay, and that is because this is a multi-tenant application. The second concept is you are going to send data to API from three places. Okay, what are three places? One is from session or local storage. So what is this? This is a data which is stored into client browser. Client is somebody who is using this application. So if you see, this is a local storage where financial year ID is there, holder name is there, role name is there, right? School ID is there. Same way, we also have data in session storage where academic year ID is there, date of birth, class name. So this is information of the teacher who is logged in the session data, and local storage generally keeps the data of a school. But for some purpose, sometimes we also keep user specific data. Okay. So first data which can be sent to API is from session or local storage. So these two data comes from session and local storage, right? So we need to see that code. So these are the two line items where academic year ID is picked from session storage, school ID is picked from the local storage. This is one of the data which is going to the API to filter the data, because for this page the requirement is show all the standards. So obviously user is not going to do any action, and the only parameters are school ID and academic year ID. And such data can be called on page load. Whenever the first time page is coming, that time we can call this. But if the data is coming from different other sources like user action, so in that case user action has to be stored the data, and for that we used uh, state variable concept. Okay, so right now first source of information which goes to API is from session or local storage, which I just showed you. The second source will be user interaction, which means school ID is pulled based on session or local storage, but user wants to see uh, the classes for a specific standard from so the divisions has to be built for a specific standard where user was going to select. So what it means is if I select a specific standard, then for that specific standard you have to pull the information. So obviously user action is user is selecting a particular standard, right? So user interaction is stored into state variable, right? So for every user action you need a state variable. In this case, what is user action is going to select one particular standard. So which standard user has selected, we maintain that information into state variable. So there should be a state variable. This is the state variable. Okay, so we saw first the two variables which are coming from local storage and session storage. The second kind of variable is coming from state variable, where user interaction is stored into any page in a state variable. So this is second source of information. For API, whenever you want to pull the API, you have these three options to where you can get the data from. Just give me a minute. The third source is information coming from previous page. So what is previous page? For example, if I see the list of students here, assume that now I want to mark attendance for the student, and that attendance I can mark in a different page. So I click on a student, it will navigate to a different page. When I navigate to a different page, for marking the attendance, I should know which student is been selected in a previous page. So we pass this information in form of parameters, right? So that information on the next page is sent to API so that that screen shows the attendance detail of a particular student selected in a previous page. Right? So from previous page, data in params, and there is also local state location dot state is another concept. So you can get the previous page data in these two formats. Either it is passed as a params or it is passed in the form of location dot state. In both these formats, you can send information from this page where user is interacting to the next page. Okay, so your API is going to pull the data using these three formats. This is what everybody should understand. And how do we define whether it's going to be a local storage, session storage, or your user is going to interact and then give me the data to get the details, or whether I will get it from the previous date? This is all requirement, right? This is all requirement, because if I come to this page from somewhere else where the standard was already selected or the academic year was selected, then I should have passed that API. So that becomes a third scenario. So in this current discussion, we are talking about API body is created from three sources. So is it clear, Ankita? Whenever we call a API, we filter that data, and that filtered data in React come from three places: session local storage, interaction from users who are in a state variable, or from the previous page where you can get it from params or location state. There's no other source for sending data to the API. And why I'm telling it so slowly is because in past, I have seen people hard coding the data when API is sent. I don't want to see a single page where hard coding is done. You should know where the data for that API is going to come from. Ankita, is it clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So first we wanted to get the list. So that's why on page load, we are calling the API. And that API, we have to create a body. I explained you how the body is sent.